Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back for your full blue moon in Sagittarius transit update reading. As always, I will have the chart pulled up on the video right here. And if you see me looking over to the right, I'm looking at exactly what you're going to be seeing there, my notes and the chart as well. So we're going to do this one a little bit differently than the past new and full moon readings that I've done previously, because I realized in my Gemini season reading, I forgot to do the tarot card update, the energy of what the cards have to say. So we're going to do that at the end of this reading and just tap into the energy we can expect from the full moon all the way up until the Gemini new moon when we transfer into that new Gemini new moon cycle. And as this full moon in Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter and the new moon was ruled by Taurus, it brings to mind that mythology of how the constellation of Taurus came to be, essentially. There are two different versions. In one version, Heracles, I think it was his seventh labor, he went to go capture the bull, and then, things happened after that, but that's not the one we're focusing on right now. Another version of the myth of how Taurus became a constellation is involving Zeus, who fell madly in love with Europa, and of course Zeus is akin to Jupiter in Greek and Roman mythology. Zeus fell madly in love with this princess on earth, this mortal princess Europa, and he decided he could not eat, he could not sleep, he could do nothing until he received the love of Europa for his own. And of course, we all know Zeus's conquest. This is just one in a million for him, but he was determined on this Tuesday, right? So he transported himself into a bull. He shapeshifted himself, which Gemini energy, we are in Gemini season, so the idea of shapeshifting is a common theme we will talk about later. But he shapeshifted himself into this bull, brought himself down to earth, and waited essentially on the seaside for Europa to go on her daily stroll, whatever. He knew she would eventually see him on the seaside. Gorgeous environment, right? The ocean behind him, he's this gorgeous white shining bull, and she was just taken so much by the beauty of this bull, and so she just spent a lot of time with it. She went up to it, braided its long luscious mane, put flowers in its hair, and again was just really taken and captured by, enraptured is a good word, by the beauty of this bull and just the connectedness she felt with it. And at one point Zeus puts his head down, and Europa, I think she like either kisses his head or something, but she decides in that moment, she gets this premonition of like, I should get on the back of this bull. And as soon as she does that, of course, Zeus kind of takes the lead from there. As soon as she is firmly on his back, she cannot get away. He jumps into the ocean, brings them all the way to Crete, and then eventually she becomes immortalized in the constellation itself. She births Minos and a couple other sons with Zeus, and she is now cemented in the Greek myths just because of how beautiful she was. And her beauty is essentially what led Zeus to immortalize her in the constellation of Taurus, in the bull constellation. So, like I said, there are different versions that say different things. Some versions really emphasize the fact that it was kidnapping and rape and, typical Zeus escapades, as we have seen time and time again throughout mythology. But there are other romanticized versions which say she also fell in love with the bull, and despite her not realizing getting on the back would take her to Crete, she ultimately is said to have lived a fulfilling life and, immortalized all of that. So, depending on who you want to talk to, who you want to ask, there can be more nefarious leaning intentions of this story and how the constellation of Taurus came to be, but that's still an energy that seems very prominent in the way that this full moon is expressing itself in the sky. And I didn't say when it was, but it will be on the 31st of May at 4:45 in the morning Eastern time. And so again, going along with this shape-shifting energy, we'll have the sun in Gemini at 9 degrees and 55 minutes Gemini. And Gemini is a shapeshifter. Gemini is one of the tricksters of the zodiac. Loki, Hermes, those the gods and creatures and beings in all forms of mythology. A yellow butterfly just flew past my window. Anyway, gods and creatures and other life forms in mythology that are able to bend reality to their will, essentially. Change themselves in order to mask behind something that they are trying to present as the truth in order to obtain what they want. So there's this shape-shifting energy with the way constellation of Taurus was formed, with Jupiter itself, with Zeus himself, with the Gemini energy, and of course Mercury will also still be in Gemini while this full moon stations exact. So we will have the sun and the moon itself, both in a closed loop of rulership, we'll call it, because the sun will be ruled by Mercury, which is in Gemini in its domicile, and then the moon will be ruled by a Jupiter, which is in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter in Cancer, etc. So where in the past we've had a lot of indirect rulership of like, oh, this planet rules this planet, which rules this planet, which rules the moon. It's very close knit. It's very like almost like the energy of keeping your cards close, which is a very prominent energy of trickster energy and of shape-shifting energy too. Because in order to be a successful trickster, in order to be a successful shapeshifter, in order to get what you want while going through those escapades and maneuvering yourself almost like with effortless ease of being able to shift and go and predict and strategize obstacles that are 100 feet ahead that people won't even think about until it's one step in front of them. In order to be successful in that, you need to be able to hold your cards, your truth close to yourself. And that's the energy of this full moon. There is a very underlying magical quality to it, not only with the stories, not only with the mythology, not only with the closed loop, but there's something, and this is just me personally speaking. Spirit has been nudging me about May 31st for months now. And I remember about 2 months ago, I kept seeing it and I kept getting the nudge. And I was like, I'm going to look at what's going on astrologically that day. And of course, it's the full moon in Sagittarius. And both Sagittarius and Gemini themselves, when it comes to the entire zodiac, to me, they are not only trickster energies, but they're just more lighthearted, especially being sister signs. Usually the sister signs are opposite sides of the same coin, but very like polar opposite expressions of it. You think of Aries, war, Libra, peace. You think Leo, bright and shining and in your face and everything. And Aquarius is more quietly subtle with the way that they approach life and the way that they garner attention. But with Gemini and Sagittarius, they are almost, to me, the most similar of the two sister signs of the zodiac, or of all the sister signs of the zodiac, because there's just like this element, and I mean this with love and respect. There's this element of clownery to everything they do. There's this element of hedonism to everything they do. It's curiosity that's driving them forward. It's learning through experience. And while they approach it differently on both sides, both of them ultimately are still embodying a similar energy of like, we're not supposed to take this shit too seriously. We're not here so we can just work and grind and be miserable the whole time. We are not only here to suffer. We recognize that, yeah, maybe suffering is an intrinsic part of what it means to move through life, and you cannot have life without suffering, but that doesn't mean life only needs to be suffering. Right? Again, it's this hedonistic quality. And while Gemini approaches it in a way where they will embody that trickster energy in order to not necessarily purposefully cause suffering in the lives of others, but they will approach a situation with that trickster energy in order to have people stumble upon their path, especially people that Gemini can see they are worth more than they're giving themselves credit for. And the only way they are going to veer off of this path of banality is if I step in, But it's if something throws them off, if something trips them up, if they're faced with some sort of challenge which makes them see just how much they are actually worth, right? Sagittarius is hands off. Sagittarius is like a tornado in that sense, where they will help you recognize your worth by bringing you along in some convoluted, fucked up, like weird ass adventure that they're going on. But where Gemini is more sneaky with it, where they're like, oh, here's a single card that I think you should play, that ends up down the line, like 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead, causing that domino effect, that tower moment. Sagittarius is like, baby, I am the tower moment. I'm owning it. You will see everything about what I'm about to move you through. And you will either say, hey, this is a lot of fun, let me maneuver my life accordingly, or you're gonna say, you know what, grateful I experienced this, not for me. And then again, move your life accordingly. But both introduce you to something that you were not able to see you were capable of. Whether that's in an expression, in what you are able to gain for yourself, it can be anywhere, anywhere. But again, they are the most similar sister sign energies, and with them both having a closed rulership, and with Cancer being involved as well, the Cancer energy that we have here, not just with Jupiter. Oh, I just realized Jupiter's going to be directly on top of my sun on this day, my natal sun. Hell yeah. Not only will we have that energy with Jupiter in Cancer where it's exalted, we'll also have Venus in Cancer at 14 degrees. So it's almost granting us this softer, more empathetic, more like consciously tapped in awareness, where we are able to bring in that dynamic of the trickster energy and be the disruptor, right? Especially with Uranus also in Gemini, Uranus, the sun, and Mercury. We will be able to embody this energy of disruption, as well as let that energy of disruption guide us through this full moon too. But if we are somebody that is meant to stir things up, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of others, the Cancer energy with Venus and Jupiter, we're both planets do fairly well in Cancer. Depending, but both planets, Jupiter's exalted, Venus is comfortable in Cancer. It gives us a softer edge to this. So it's not that we are just causing disruption for disruption's sake because we're bored and just want to see shit burn, which sometimes that is Gemini energy. You know, think of Loki. A lot of, and I've talked about this before on the channel. A lot of what Loki did before, or a lot of what Loki did in general, was just because he was bored and wanted to see what this one thing, how the domino effect would roll, right? With this Cancer energy involved with the Gemini energy that we will, Gemini and Sagittarius energy, it's softer. It's not as abrupt. It's not as in your face. But with that said, we also have the dark moon Lilith in Sagittarius. It's not, so when the moon station's exact, it's a stretch. It's technically conjunct because the moon will be at 9 degrees and Lilith will be at 18. So it's within that 10-degree orb. But I don't usually count that I don't usually count 10-degree aspects unless it's a big planet with a big planet. So when it stations exact, Lilith is there. Her energy is underlying. It's beneath the surface. It's adding to the tension of recognizing what you are meant to disrupt, how it's meant to be disrupted, and the ways that we can unveil this like darker side of ourselves to become more fully and embodied in our expression. And also own the shit we are doing, not only for ourselves and to cause disruption in our own lives, but in the lives of others. Owning that shit. Saying, yeah, I said it. Yeah, I gave them that card. Yeah, I pushed that first domino. And look where they ended up because of it. It's like I'm not taking responsibility or ownership of it, but I'm just saying they wouldn't have got there if I didn't push that first domino. That's kind of the energy that Lilith is moving through. And while she is not conjunct the moon or opposite the sun while it stations exact, she will be, as because the moon moves fast, the moon is going to pass over Lilith later that day. Did I say exactly what time on here? I didn't write exactly what time, but since the full moon station's exact at 4:45 a.m., again Eastern time, I would probably around like 2 3 p.m. Eastern time will the moon be directly on top of Lilith. And that's where we're going to take that energy of like it's going to combine those hidden aspects of ourselves that do kind of secretly want to play around and like we not admit that we want to play around and be sneaky and embody and embrace those more trickster disruptor energies for ourselves. When the moon comes together with the dark moon, that's going to be a time where even if you're not saying it out loud, it's like a resonant energy of like, oh, yeah, maybe I did do that. Like admitting to yourself, like taking self accountability for it, but not in a way that's going to like put you in a spiral or like a depressive episode. It's going to show you the ways in which when you lean into these like more sneaky, more trickster energies for yourself, it's not always a bad thing. And we've been taught to shame and repress these sides of ourselves that aren't charming and open and expressive and fun and bubbly and like I've talked about before on this channel, the light feminine versus the dark feminine, which is always the dark feminine, I should say, is always shamed and repressed, and we're taught not to embody that. But we need to embody the dark feminine with the light feminine in order to become full and embodied within ourselves. And when the moon passes over Lilith, again, about 12 hour, not at like again 2 3 p.m. Eastern time on the 31st, when the moon passes over the dark moon, it's going to be a quiet moment of reflection where you just kind of tap in with yourself and you say, yeah, I see that the way I did that and how that maneuvered, and maybe I didn't want to admit to myself that that was my intention or that I was doing it, but now I can see, no, that was always the intention. And that was exactly what I was doing. It's like this, again, in this moment of clarity for yourself. And you don't have to tell anybody about it. I feel like it's going to be a very quiet thing where you're just like, huh, like a revelation, a revelatory energy just for yourself and for nobody else. So pay attention that afternoon on the 31st, depending on where you are in the world. Could be a little bit earlier, a little bit later. You make it work for your time zone. But that's really the meat and potatoes of the energy that we are moving with this full moon. Of course, we will still have the parade of planets in Aries. We have Neptune at 4 degrees, Vesta at 7 degrees, Pallas at 10 degrees, Saturn at 12 degrees. What is that? Eris at 25 degrees, Chiron at 29 degrees, and then all of that will be ruled by a Taurus Mars, which at the time of the full moon is going to be conjunct the ascendant of the full moon chart. The it'll be 7 degrees Taurus on the horizon, and then Mars will be at 9 degrees Taurus. So a little bit below the horizon, but still there. Um, so all of that Aries energy we're seeing a softer expression of all of that Aries energy compared to what we've been moving through, honestly, since Pisces season with all of that Aries energy still inundated. But because Mars is in Taurus, it doesn't like being in Taurus. It doesn't move very well in Taurus. It wants to like be fast and kick and rage and scream and like be driven by our passions and that internal flame. And while Taurus doesn't necessarily put out the flame, it condenses the flame. So where Mars and Aries, which oh, when I think we're almost out of Mars and Aries as I record this, but Mars and Aries, as it is in its domicile, it's like this big bonfire in like I don't know why this is the first vehicle that came to mind, but the Pope Mobile, right? Imagine if the Pope Mobile was a bonfire mobile and it's like going down the highway 180 miles an hour. Bonfire doesn't even blow out by the wind. The wind makes it bigger, right? That's Mars and Aries energy. But then when we get to Taurus, it's like they get to their destination and then they take a single candle or like maybe like a little, like a handheld bonfire, right? Like they have a couple sticks and some twigs and everything, and they take a flame from the big bonfire and put it in the little one. So it's more portable and transferable. And, you're not going as fast or as far as quickly, and you're not like gaining more traction and more bigness with the wind and all of the elements, but you're still sustaining yourself. But again, it's in a way that is more easily accessible. It's easily holdable. It's like the difference between dealing with the elements externally and if you have an altar, like dedicating an elemental altar to the elements and the cardinal directions. It's manageable. But again, you're not going to get anywhere as quickly as you want to. It's not going to be as burning bright. It's not going to be as passion driven, but it's going to be practical. So not only are you not burning as bright and going as quickly, you're not burning out as quickly either. You have more patience. You have more energy to actually tend to the smaller fire. So you can build it up even bigger as Mars moves through Taurus because it's containable. It's containable. You have a grip on it. So again, while Mars doesn't love being in Taurus, it's an energy that you can more easily work with, especially with all of this air energy moving around. Again, Uranus in Gemini, the Sun and Mercury in Gemini. I mean, this isn't air, but Sagittarius energy in general, fire energy, all of the Aries energy. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius still. Yeah, so this chart is very, almost all air and fire, other than the North and South Node, which are in Pisces and Virgo, Mars, which is in Taurus, and then Venus and Jupiter. Everything else is air and fire. So this Taurus Mars energy, as well as the South Node being in Virgo, it's giving you like it's a necessary grounding. It's a necessary grounding. And that goes back to what I was saying about like keeping your cards close to your chest and how this full moon, while the full moon illuminates, it's the blue moon. So blue, if correct me if I'm wrong, but blue is one of the like in terms of the visible light spectrum, I think blue is the color that we can like the shortest distance we can see. Like we can see red and orange like far fucking far away. I think blue, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is the or one of the colors that we can only see from a short distance away. Obviously not including the sky, but you know what I'm talking about in terms of like signage and everything. That's why we don't have blue in terms of traffic laws. You don't see blue street signs. There's no blue lights that dictate traffic routes, right? Because blue, you need to be very close to it. Not obviously not this close, but you need to be close to it to actually distinguish it from everything else. Which is funny because that's not even a metaphor I thought about before I just said it. So yeah, keep the full blue moon. It's something that will only reveal its true illumination the closer you are to its center. The only way you can see its full truth, despite it being full and bright in the sky, is when you are actually close enough to the center to be able to discern the truth from the trickster energy which will be floating around. So that's a lot of fun. And again, I'm not getting into the nitty gritty of these, but I did just catch this. Jupiter will be exactly by quintile Lilith at the exact time of the full moon. And again, biquintiles and quintile aspects, they reveal innate gifts that we have within us. But I've said before, with quintiles and biquintiles, it's not just a gift you're born with and have full complete awareness that you have this gift. It's a gift which is revealed as you move through your experience, and it's more than likely If you follow your intuition, the signs and synchronicities, you will be led to a way that you can harness and express this gift and learn about the gift and expand upon that gift. But it's something that you need to become aware of first before you can actually tap into the what the gift offers. And I used this example before. It's like, say you are a profound painter, right? Like child prodigy energy, like talented out the ass. You would never know that unless your parents gave you a paint set or even like a drawing set or just something that helped you find the dexterity needed in order to allow those gifts to awaken within you. If you're a poet and you write poetry, like some of the best that's ever been written, you would never know that until you picked up the pen, or maybe went through that dark night that made you feel all of these things that you had nowhere else to put them. The only place you could express what you're truly feeling inside was through the written word, and it was through that experience which helped you discover the gift that you have for poetry. That's what quintiles and biquintiles are. So with Jupiter and Lilith making an exact quintile and biquintile aspect to one another, while the moon is in Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, and Lilith is also ruled by Jupiter, making that exact biquintile aspect, it's like the revelation of how I spoke of earlier when the moon does pass over Lilith after the full moon station's exact. When the moon does pass over Lilith, it's going to be that like quiet understanding, that quiet moment where you're taking accountability and like the moment of clarity where you're saying, oh, tee, maybe I did do that. Oopsies. So what else can I do? With Jupiter making that biquintile aspect, being able to be honest with yourself about maybe the more sneakier or more trickster leaning energies that you have tapped into before for the benefit of yourself and the detriment of yourself and the benefit and detriment of others in certain times. Jupiter and Lilith making that biquintile aspect, which will include the moon when it stations on top of Lilith, is going to help you reveal gifts of the ability to harness and express the true embodiment of the dark feminine energy, however that looks for you, whatever that means for you. And that could even just be a gift of like no longer allowing shame to cause you to repress, no longer feeling embarrassed about your sexuality, no longer allowing the programming propaganda to tell you what it means to be a good person. Good and bad are so subjective in the grand scheme of things. We all kind of suck. We all are kind of shitty. We all do shitty fucking things. There's not a single person in existence that has never done anything wrong. That is without sin, right? Not to get all religious on there. Fuck the system. Fuck mainstream religion. And I'm not sorry if you're probably not watching this video if you feel any other type of way. So just making that abundantly clear though. But with Lilith and Jupiter and the moon all coming together make that exact biquintile. It's giving you the gift of, that's interesting. I almost said enlightenment, but it's like the opposite. It's like illumination, like a full moon does. It's the gift of illumination because when I think enlightenment, I think of sunshine. I think more masculine leaning, like the Buddha, like again, more patriarchal religious structures. When I think illumination, that starts within. That starts within and like ripples outward. And it makes me think of the full moon. And that's the energy of that. It's illumination. It's a gift of illumination to help you truly come to terms with everything you are capable, everything you've done, everywhere you've been, and how you can utilize the wisdom. How you can recognize the wisdom of who you are and where you've been and what you've done. Because a lot of times when we still feel a lot of shame and embarrassment and heaviness and repression over the things that we have moved through before and we've been taught to feel shamed of and all of that, we lose sight of the wisdom. We can, not even lose sight. We can't even see the wisdom. We can't get to the wisdom. The wisdom is the lotus flower deep in the gunk of the mud, right? But if you are still shameful, if you're still repressing these things from your past that are more Lilith leaning, that are more dark moon leaning, if you are still in this element where you're like, I have to feel shame, I have to feel embarrassed, I have to repress, the lotus never emerges from the mud. But the lotus is the wisdom of the experience. The lotus is the illumination and the embodiment. The lotus is you. But until you sort through the mud and you recognize the mud not as like a prison of like you want to die thinking about these things, right? Because you feel so repressed, because you've been taught to feel so repressed. When you allow the perspective to shift, that's been a theme in a lot of these readings. When you allow the perspective to shift, not from prison, but maybe just like containment. just a container. Going back, I use containment for Mars too. It's been a container. And until that container had the proper elemental structures, we'll say, the right amount of sunlight, the right temperature, the right infiltration of water, like the water to mud ratio, etc. Until you allowed the shame to drift away, until you've taught yourself to not repress, until you've taught yourself that the embarrassment is a teacher and not something you have to shunt away and pretend doesn't exist. The day you teach yourself that, the day you recognize that and truly embody that, that's the day the lotus sprouts. And that's when you can utilize the wisdom as the gift of illumination. Hmm. There's only one other thing I really want to talk about before we move on to the reading. The only, is it the only one? No, it's not the only exact conjunction or exact aspect. We do have a couple. There are two. One, we're going to have Chiron exactly conjunct Persephone within a single degree. They're going to be at different degrees. Chiron's at 29 degrees and 10 minutes. Persephone will be at 28 degrees and 16 minutes, both in Aries. So a 0 degree, 54-minute orb. Um, and Chiron will also sextile Mercury with a 1 degree and 7-minute orb. But that Chiron conjunct Persephone, it brings me back to what I said. I think it was in the Gemini reading. It might have been for the Taurus new moon reading though, but where um Persephone was making the exact down to the solar arc minute trine with Eros. And it was like this reclamation of innocence, right? It's the losing of innocence, but that's what it was. The losing of innocence, but the reclamation of power, of your seat of power, of your voice, of your expression, of your sensuality, of the wisdom that you earn and garner from stepping away from repression, stepping out of the innocence and the ignorance of the propaganda, which tells you you need to stay repressed. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but Chiron conjunct Persephone now, it's almost like the recognition of the wounds that, like the lingering wounds that we may still be holding on to surrounding our sensuality, surrounding our sexuality, surrounding maybe the ways innocence had been taken from us. And that goes back to Zeus and Europa, because again, depending on who you talk to, depending on what myths you read, it's not always romanticized. It could be seen as kidnap and rape and Europa not having any say in the matter. She saw this bull and thought it was beautiful and wanted to just like play mermaids with the bull and like braid its hair and be pretty and just like be a girl, right? She was a princess, right? She's still young. She wasn't a queen, she was a princess. She just wanted this moment of girlhood. And then Zeus came in. Zeus was tricking her the whole time. And so if Europa, she had no choice when she gets to Crete, she has to father his children. She has to be this immortal being now, which is cemented in mythology as one of Zeus's many paramours. That in itself is a loss of innocence. That's a loss of life, right? And Persephone represents that same thing because Persephone has a very similar story. Persephone was kidnapped by her uncle with Zeus's help. Kidnapped by her uncle while she was just having a day with her girlfriends, picking flowers, enjoying the sunlight. Kidnapped, raped, tortured, tricked. Tricked to the extent that she was tricked to now have to spend half of her life with her uncle, who kidnapped and raped and tortured her and tricked her. That's a loss of innocence. And there's still wounds, regardless of her stepping into her power and recognizing her seat in the kingdom now as the queen of the underworld, and that her voice actually does hold a lot of weight, hold a lot of meaning. There's still this reckoning of recognizing the ways in which we still hold wounds of that loss of innocence. So, on one side, yeah, I'm grateful I'm in the seat that I am today, but I also am still grieving the girl that I had to let go of in order to become the woman that holds this power. So that's kind of what the energy of Chiron and Persephone conjoining one another with this full moon represents, and I think it's a perfect uh, um, a perfect exploration of that with everything else going on, of the trickster energies, of the illumination, of the softer side of Cancer, which is helping us tap into that emotional side. It's this, again, just this reckoning of recognizing you've been very strong up until this point, and maybe that when the moon passes over Lilith, it'll just be a nice quiet time for yourself where you let all of this come out. You stop repressing even the grief that you didn't allow yourself to feel because you were stuck in survival mode, or you stuck in the grind, or you were stuck just like face forward going towards your goals. It'll be a moment to say, no, she does deserve this moment just to grieve. She's a part of me. I will never be separate from that girl who did lose her innocence without my choice, but I am now this woman, and now that I have this space, it's time for me to make the space to be with her in this grief. And it almost feel like what I envision after that, it's like almost like a Disney movie. It's like just taking a second. You're gonna be sitting there and you're gonna take a second and it's going to feel very heavy, but not for long. It's like the connection of the moon and Lilith is going to help you tap into that resonance of recognition within yourself. You know, remember with the gifts of the biquintile, it's going to help you tap into the resonance of that. And then with the conjunction with Chiron and Persephone, in that same moment, it's going to be like you tap into that resonance and it's like a weight drops to the bottom of your stomach, like even beyond your stomach, like you feel the infinity within you. I feel it in the womb. That's fascinating. Feel it in the womb. It's like you can feel the infinite expanse of the womb and a weight just like continuously dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. But it's like a split second. And it's like all the weight wants you to do is acknowledge it and feel it for that split second in infinity. Just feel it. Feel the pit. Feel it so deeply. Because once you feel it, once you acknowledge it, it's like any potential pain or discomfort you may feel in that moment, it's like it turns into like this pixie dust. And that's what I'm seeing. It's like just the black void and this like this glowing white. I don't even know how to explain it. That's what I see. It's like this like this dense metal ball. And it once you acknowledge it and recognize it, it like stops its free fall. And then it spins for a second. And as it's spinning, it's rising again. And then as it's spinning, it's slowly, the metal is chipping away and 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 chipping away. And then it keeps rising. And once all the metal's away, it's just this like again, this light, it looks blue, which brings me back to go like the blue of the blue moon. But it's like this very light dust. But it's not dust, it's like it's something inexplainable. And it's light and it's not it doesn't ever settle. It just continues to rise. So that's that. And then the last thing I want to mention in terms of what we're talking or the actual aspects before I get into the reading, we'll have Psyche at 12 degrees and 57 minutes in Cancer, and it will directly oppose Phallus, which will be at 12 degrees and 22 minutes retrograded in Capricorn. And Psyche, we've spoken on a lot on this page just because I love Psyche in myth and also as the asteroid. But Psyche represents in astrology our soul and the tenacity and resilience of our soul and the ways that we just never fucking give up in pursuit of the soul's expansion and the connection to soul. Like it's an indomitable spirit kind of energy. That's Psyche, and that's what Psyche represents in astrology as well. It's the seat of our soul. It's how we will go through trials and trials and tribulations and trials and trials and trials just to make it to what we know to be our soul's purpose and our destined calling. Now, Phallus, the story of Phallus is heartbreaking in itself. And it's also about how, like, the smallest moment in time, the smallest decision can represent a massive turning point. And that goes into what I've been talking about the domino effect too. But how the smallest choice can represent like your entire life flipping up on its head. So Psyche opposing Phallus, it's with all of this other energy that's going on, it's possible that there is something, it's like including the moon coming together with Lilith, the biquintile with Jupiter, and the energy of Persephone and Chiron together. This Psyche and Phallus energy is like when you tap into that recognition, that anchoring, that connection to self, that connection to soul, you're going to make and maybe this isn't for everybody, but for some of you, especially depending on where Cancer and Capricorn fall in your chart, 12 degrees Cancer and Capricorn. I had to sit up, you know, it's like serious business. For some of you, there's going to be a moment when you tap into that reflection and you feel that pit and you recognize the pit and you bring your awareness to the pit, which then turns it into that pixie dust, for lack of a better term. For some of you, there's going to be a moment of deep, like clarity just washing over you. Not only washing over you, but like cleansing you of every ounce of doubt, illusion, delusion, deception. Maybe people will be revealed. Something's gonna settle over you. like a mist, right? But it's like a mist that doesn't stop. So, you know, when you walk outside and it's like barely raining, but it's misting, and then like it's you can feel that like your clothes are soaked, but it's barely on the surface of your clothes, and your hair feels soaked, but it's literally just like all the particles are just sitting on your top layer, and nothing's actually soaked through, but it feels like it is. It almost feels heavy in that way. That's the energy that I'm getting from this. It's like once that washes over you, once the clarity sets in, and that's the thing. It's almost like rather than it just being a layer on top of you, though, it's going to feel like something's changed, and it'll be a blip. It'll be a moment where it's just like, oh, like something shifts, the switch flips, something anchors in that moment of clarity, and as that gift of clarity and illumination comes in, something anchors that's going to change everything. Obviously not right in that moment, because again, this full moon is about the illumination of self. It's about keeping your cards close to you, and whatever that anchoring is, no, you don't need advice, no, you don't need to talk it over with anybody else. Keep your fucking mouth shut. We have nothing in Scorpio, but that I felt the need to say that this is for you. This is between you and your ancestors and spirit. This is for you, and you're the only one that has the clarity and the awareness. So if you do feel confused over what washes over you, I don't think you're actually confused. I think your mind's trying to overthink it. First of all, I don't think you're going to actually be confused about it, but you're going to want to be confused because it's going to mean drastic action, and it's serious. It feels serious, but it's not serious in a way that's going to lead you down a path of like solemn service and workitude. It's not a word, but like it's a serious decision of what you need to do in order to actually align to you. And I think for a lot of you, that decision is going to mean letting go of a lot of things that maybe you knew in the long term couldn't bring with you, but you thought you had more time. You don't. And I think that's going to become very, very clear on this full moon. The time is now. And it's going to feel heavy because, again, you did want more time. But you know that letting go and, again, not letting yourself think you're confused, but actually feeling it, anchoring it, hearing it, seeing it, however it comes to you, recognizing it and saying, okay. And again, action doesn't have to be taken that swiftly because again, we got a Taurus Mars. It's containment, right? So it's just recognizing how and strategically moving with all of this Gemini energy, strategically moving forward. If you know you need to do this thing or release this thing or whatever it is, this clarity that comes over you, if you know this has to happen in order for you to get there, I'm pointing all the way over there in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, however long, whatever your timeline is. If you know you need to do this thing, that's when the awareness sets in. And then leading up to the Gemini new moon, I think you're going to tend to the strategy. Maybe take small tangible actions, but nothing huge. I feel like there's not going to be any big moves while Mars still moves through Taurus. But again, I think this full moon represents that. Oh yeah, yep, that has to happen. It has to be done. And it's sad for now, but again, the fulfillment you will feel in the long run. You would, looking back, you would do it 10 times over, 15, 100 times over. It's a lesson in detachment and how much we can actually gain when we are willing to let go. And again, it's a more serious energy, but I think it's only serious in the moment because it's that official recognition. You've been feeling the nudges, but this full moon represents that official recognition of, yeah, oh, already we got two. Three of Cups, the Emperor, what fell out? So we had the Ace of Pentacles and the Nine of Wands fall out like this too. This is how they look. So the Nine of Wands kind of covering that Ace of Pentacles, and you can see it's like covering half of the pentacle too. If you are still holding on to this aspect of suspicion, maybe as you're moving through the energy of the Persephone and Chiron energy, the Jupiter Lilith energy, the Moon Lilith energy, or what I say, the Psyche Phallus energy, whatever it is you're moving through, you may feel an air of suspicion, like you have to watch your back, or like the battle's not over yet, and like, or like the Nine of Wands energy to me is like the battle is won, but the war isn't over. If you hold on to that for too long, you're actually going to be blocking a lot of your blessings. And it's like this wants to come through. You can see the portal is wide open. This wants to come through in its totality. I'll show you the whole picture. It wants to come through, and even like the way it was sitting in her hand. It's like he's blocking her hand from reaching him because he's still in this energy of like, but what if? Like kind of having to watch your back. You don't need to do that. And I think part of you will feel like you need to be more like on your toes about everything because again of that more serious aspect of what you're recognizing you need to release, or even the more serious aspect of like the loss of innocence that we moved through. And maybe recognizing the loss of innocence is going to bring up like those survival tactics and the coping mechanisms that you adopted in the past in order to keep yourself safe and not implode and like just keep yourself surviving and moving forward. um so I think this is almost like I'm going to put it up again the way it was showing it. I think this is almost like the recognition of, oh, I could probably move back to the center because we're done with the chart here. But this is like the recognition of, and I think something will come to you, maybe in the form of an opportunity or just even like a good night out. Or again, that Sagittarius hedonist energy. Something's going to come to you, which is like the opportunity for some sort of expansion or an opportunity for greater like stability, like maybe like networking opportunity in that sense too, because it's Pentacles. Something's going to come to you and you are going to block yourself from that thing. But it's in like you blocking yourself or saying no at first and then being like at the last minute, you know what, actually I do want to come. There's going to be a moment where like you hesitate there, but then I think this awareness, you're going to see the ways in which you are being your own blockage there. And then with the Emperor and the Three of Cups at the bottom of both halves of the deck, you're going to see how you are your own blockage, and you are going to, ooh, there goes the ace and it fell on the ground. Some readers say, fall on the floor, count it times four, or counts even more, or something like that. So you're going to see how you're blocking yourself, and you're going to remove yourself as the blockage, which will help you tap into the sense of like communal celebration and togetherness. And again, especially if this is networking, it's not going to be networking that feels like very mundane, but it will offer you the seat of power. It will offer you a greater awareness of your potentiality now that you don't feel like you have to be on edge. And you know, even the way that these cards are sitting, right? Like while he is looking the same way as the knight there, he's looking towards the celebration and the ace, which is bouncing back towards the celebration and the emperor. And he's just kind of like, okay, we can show ourselves off stage left, you know? So that's kind of a great energy there where it's like, again, just this recognition and the settling more deeply into the awareness of going back to what I was saying earlier of like how you've been kind of that sneaky energy in your own life and in the lives of others, and how you can utilize that to your advantage now, and recognizing how maybe you've been a trickster in yourself. Like your brain has been a trickster in a way that it's been keeping you stuck and stagnated and lacking illumination, right? Oh, something fell out. Four of Pentacles reverse. Yeah, so we're letting go, babe. Four of Pentacles, and then we have the Six of Swords upright. And is that the Eight of Pentacles underneath? Yeah. Six of Swords upright, Four of Pentacles reverse. You're letting go of what you know you don't need, what you know you cannot carry with you into this transition. Because in this transition, you're going to have your plate full. You're going to have your plate full. You're going to be working very hard at your craft. But the Eight of Pentacles, to me, it's not hard work just for the sake of hard work. Oh, and then the Ten of Cups was underneath the Eight of Pentacles. It's not just hard work for the sake of working hard and slaving away. It's hard work that leads to greater fulfillment, that leads to greater stability. And the sense of just like being Six of Pentacles. Come on now. We got the Ace, the Eight, and the Six of Pentacles so far. Six of Pentacles is generosity. So it's hard work that is not only fulfilling to you, but gives you the opportunity to give back to others and maybe even just to yourself. Maybe even just to yourself, you know? And then Ace of Swords at the bottom of this little, how many? Oh, these are a lot of cards. A lot of good cards though. So yeah, we'll show those one. Ace of Swords, so two aces already. Page of Wands, passion, excitement, being a student. Page of Wands is very Sagittarius energy to me. Judgment, clear vision, judgment especially. King of Wands, and then the Eight of Swords reverse. So again, letting go of and moving out of this energy of being like seeing your mind as a prison and seeing your past as a prison and seeing everything you've been through as like something that has held you back. You're recognizing how you have held yourself back. So we had the Page and the Knight of Cups. Oh no, it was the Page of Wands, Knight of Cups, and the Wheel of Fortune. Knight of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune. So yeah, and starting with the Ace of Pentacles too, working hard, letting go and moving away from that mental prison that's kept you stuck because you know in this transition as you move towards what is actually meant for you, you don't have room on the boat for it, you know? And once you get to the next dry land, right? The next island, wherever you're going. Once you get there, you unload your boat, you unload your supplies, and you immediately get to work. You immediately start chipping away. You immediately start doing the thing. And that's going to lead you to a greater sense of fulfillment. It's going to lead you to this sense of like feeling very confident in yourself and your work as well, having a greater sense of clarity and spiritual connection too. It feels like this feels destined. This is destined shit right here. Like this is like God is guiding your hand. The goddess is guiding your hand. The high spirit is guiding your hand. Whatever you want to believe in, source, the universe, creator, it feels like it's guiding your hand, and while you're doing it, while you are like embedding yourself in the sense of mastery, the only reason you're able to be embedded in mastery is because you are the student and you're following your passions, and following those passions are leading you to new mental pathways, like literally new neural connections forming within your mind, which help you find greater fulfillment and go after greater fulfillment, have the confidence to go after greater fulfillment, which is going to lead to more wealth and abundance. Sorry, it looked like that smirk girl. I don't know how to do it though. Greater wealth and abundance. And I stopped it with the Nine of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, and I accidentally split it as I picked this up to the world. So yeah, babe, cycles are ending. Cycles are ending. Cycles are ending. It's important you're befriending the ending. Be a friend to the end. And the garden you will tend. And pretty soon you'll be the one to recommend, not only you, but everything that's true. So just believe in yourself, boo. And allow yourself the space. Yep. Queen of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune again. Queen of Cups, Six of Cups, and the Wheel of Fortune. As I was about to, it's funny, Six of Cups came out as I was about to say this. Last thing. Allow yourself, and I see Death peeking out. Death's at the very bottom of the deck. Allow yourself as you move through this transition, this rebirth, because that's really what it is. Don't just look at the past and everything you've been through. Don't only see the mud. See the lotus, which has emerged through the mud. Recognize the wisdom, and I'll show the Queen, and then strength was under the Queen of Cups. Recognize the wisdom, and now the seed of maturity you hold too. Because the seed of maturity and being able to look at the past, not necessarily through rose-colored glasses, but in a way where it's not so dampened, where it's not only negative, where it's not like, oh, I've been through so much bullshit. It's like, yeah, I did go through a lot of bullshit, but now I'm the lotus. And now I hold the seat of power, and I know how to use my voice. And I'm moving towards a life of my fucking dreams. And the star was under strength. Are you fucking kidding me? And the hermit. So there's still work to be done. There's still work to be done here. Ten of Swords down to the Hermit. Okay. Oh my god, and Queen of Pentacles under the Ten of Swords and the Two of Cups. This is crazy. And the Sun? This is crazy. This is crazy. There's still work to be done, and you know that. And you know that's why the energy of this full moon, it's quiet. It's keeping your cards close to your chest because you don't want to reveal your hand too soon. It's only allowing those who are close enough to recognize and tap into the frequency to know what you're doing. And for some of you, for me at least, I know this is true. For some of you, that means only you and your spirit team, and nobody else needs to know. Maybe your cats need to know, and that's it. Keeping your cards close to your chest because you know there is still work to do. And you know this isn't the end. You know a cycle is ending. It's the end of a chapter, or maybe for some of you, the end of a fucking book, right? But the next book doesn't start off in the middle of adventure. It doesn't start off like plopped right into the action. It starts off slow usually. You're enjoying yourself, you're relaxing, sipping a mocktail on the beach. Or like if you think of Lord of the Rings, it starts with the preparations for the party. You're just enjoying your life, having a good time, not thinking of anything else, just getting yourself ready for another day of celebration. And then after you start anchoring in that, getting things together, getting yourself ready, getting everything ready for what you think the main event is going to be, the main event actually ends up being the prequel to what is to come. And you know that. There's still work to do. This is a transition. This is not the end. It's really the beginning. But it's like, it's hard to explain. But I think if you get it, you get it. And I think I'll end it there. Let me shuffle one more time and then I want to split the deck just to see what we have after we split it. Ready? La 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 la. And then we'll end it because we are just about at our time. Three, two. I really liked this reading. This was a good one. Okay, so at the bottom of the deck, King of Wands again. We're gonna split the deck. Ready? Ready? Oh, you can watch me split it. Ready? For the third time. King of Wands. Actually, let's switch hands so he's looking at it. King of Wands and Wheel of Fortune. And if you look, that kind of looks like the King of Wands up there on the wheel with his honey. But the thing is, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, that's the Queen of Swords at the bottom of the deck too. Yep. King of Wands, Queen of Swords. The thing with the Wheel of Fortune, and this goes into kind of what I was about to say. Last thing, I promise. The thing with the Wheel of Fortune is you're not always on top. As you can see in this card, somebody else was on top a second ago, and now they fell down, and they're on top. So be very mindful about your thought forms, about the ways you're thinking and speaking over yourself and your life, about the ways you are thinking and speaking over yourself or over others and their lives, about the way you're speaking to others in their life. You may have this like brazen confidence, and then Eight of Pentacles again was under the King of Wands. You may have this brazen confidence to you. Warranted. You deserve to have that confidence. You deserve to walk in that confidence, this passion, this energy, this like vitality and like lust for life, right? But don't allow that confidence to become cockiness because Queen of Swords can be very sharp with her words. And if you're not careful, that sharpness may come back to bite you in the ass. And I picked up both cards, but it showed the two of cups. So again, I think with the symbolism, king, queen, the man and the woman, and the two of cups here, and the Queen of Pentacles was under there too. And then even on the sun on this in this deck. You guys might have someone coming in. I don't often do love readings, but this is a lot of symbolism when I said I was about to end it. A lot of symbolism there. And there's a knight under the queen. Even better, the emperor. And they're looking at each other. And their color schemes are exactly the same. Yeah, some of you have people coming in. Whether you want them to or not. They're on their way. And they'll help you find your seat. They'll help you build your empire. But don't go into this expecting longevity. Maybe it'll happen. Don't it's like a working relationship. Yeah, that's where I want to end it. Thanks for being here, y'all. I'm excited for this full moon. Again, it's a subtle yet potent and powerful energy. Two of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Be very mindful of what you're choosing. Again, going back, and then I split to the Queen. Be very mindful of what you're choosing because, again, with Phallus, opposite Psyche, your choices can represent drastic changes in your life. Even the smallest thing. Choosing where you decide to go for lunch today. Follow your intuition. Don't overthink. Don't second guess. Don't question. Don't confuse yourself because you're not confused. Trust your intuition. Follow your intuition, especially with Psyche involved. You know everything you need to know. You know where you need to go. You know what you need to do. Don't let this play tricks on you, especially with all this trickster energy. And that's it. Thanks for being here. Love y'all. Happy full moon. Bye.